What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. It's NFL Week 12. We got our player projections episode. I'll be joined by one of the most accurate rankers and projectors in the game, Sean Koerner, in just a moment. Quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content is available right now over at fantasylabs.com. We got in-season rankings, waiver wire, and DFS tips, and much more. Be sure to use code FLEX20 for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. We're going to dive into our top 5 at each skill position, discuss players we're high and low on, give out some props this week. But of course, we start with our cardio kings, which are the players who ran the most routes without a target. Koerner, what's up? Who we got for cardio king going on in last week, so week 11?
Yeah, so tight end, the cardio king was Drew Sample, who ran 15 routes, 0 targets. Kind of, favorite in that market, I guess, but it is what it is. But the cardio king was Khalif Raymond with 22 routes, 0 targets. Looked like just he and Tisla were out there a bit more. With, Laporte out, they just kind of used a little bit more 3 wide receiver set. So not too surprised that Raymond showed up there. Tisla might be the favorite next week if he keeps up, this route run rate. He doesn't see many targets. But, Raymond was the cardio king with 22 routes last week.
Yeah, and against the Eagles, it does make some sense too. You're probably running a route against like Quinyon Mitchell or and then it was like Goff never had time, as Collinsworth kept alluding to, never had time to get into the offense. So those guys are always the third, fourth read at best in the offense, probably the fifth. So that could happen going forward. But who do the Lions play this week? The Giants, not as great of a pass rush. So maybe your boy Tesla gets some action. And Raymond, he's always liable for like a splash play. So yeah, I wouldn't say they're the favorites. I would say whoever, like maybe like a Hodgins or a Gabe Davis, whoever gets called up late in the week to play like the entire game, or Casey Washington. So
Hodge, Hodge might be the favorite. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's start with quarterback top 5 for week 12. Who do you got?
Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen.
Ooh, yeah, I got Allen. I'm just gonna put him number 1 now. May, Mahomes, Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. So no Baker Mayfield yet, but yeah, he's he's
where the hell? I have Baker. These are raw dog projections. QB 17, but I think I'm gonna have to manually move him inside my top 10 at this point. Where do you have him?
Yeah, I have him 14 right now. But the reason I have him 14 is because I have the quarterback they're facing number 6, Matthew Stafford. So
right,
yeah, it's one of those things. We'll see where it shakes out. But yeah, I think Baker's kind of a borderline top 12. That's fair. We'll see about Godwin this week. I don't know if he still exists or not, but who are you high on at quarterback?
Jared Goff. You just mentioned him, but I'm high on Jared Goff at home against the Giants. But he's coming off that poor showing against the Eagles. I think once I saw him in the long sleeve shirt, the hand warmer, the gloves, I knew it was going to be a disaster. Just he doesn't have that same swag. He doesn't have the motion when he's on the road in the elements. He still put up like 255 passing yards, but just knew it wasn't going to happen. It was a tough matchup too against the Eagles, but you just know now that they're home, he's going to throw for 450 yards or 6 touchdowns or something like that. It's coming. So he's back inside my top 10 this week. QB9. I guess the risk is, if Jahmyr Gibbs or Dave Montgomery score a few touchdowns, that's going to lower his floor 10 because Goff himself doesn't offer any rushing stats whatsoever. But this is certainly, a bounce back spot. And I think especially with Dan Campbell calling the plays, he's been a lot more pass heavy than John Morton. So I think in this spot, Goff could have, his traditional eruption game coming off a, kind of a disaster on the road.
Was their pass rate over expected higher 2 weeks ago or last week against Philly? I haven't looked at the
2 weeks ago was their highest of the season. Last week it was definitely down, closer to, average. So it was their 3rd highest pass rate over expected on the season. So if you just look at the 2-game sample, it's a bit higher than their season long rate. And with Laporte out, obviously that's going to ding the passing attack, but maybe that does make them throw more in a sense, less heavy personnel. But yeah, just it seems like Campbell wants to have Goff drop back a little bit more than Morton was.
Yeah, definitely. I'd probably say it's kind of similar to this week, like average, which is still better than usual, because the Giants, I mean, you could throw on them, but it's like their run defense has been so bad too that I'm sure they want to exploit that with the guys like Gibbs and Monty, who've been. I mean, Gibbs has been amazing. Like, it's just been ridiculous.
Yeah.
I actually got to update my top 5. I got to update my top 5. Hold on, because I initially had Gibbs. He was like my RB6, and now I'm looking at it. No, he was my RB4, and now he's up to RB2 somehow. So,
nothing wrong with that. Obviously, like, that's the thing is, like, Gibbs, I said, Gibbs and Monty could have like a big first half where they're scoring touchdowns. And then, like, when you expect the Lions to be run heavy, which they will, a handful of scores, that's when Goff, throws to JMO for an 80-yard touchdown. Like, he does thrive when the defense is expecting a run. So even if they're up, he could still have a big play. That's kind of the theme when it comes to Goff and the Lions offense, where, even if they're up, he could still have a big game. But yeah, we'll get to running back. But yeah, I don't have Gibbs in my top 2. I'm kind of jealous. I'll probably manually bump him up. But yeah, he should have a big game as well.
I'm high on Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. I feel like this is a guy name I've been saying a lot over the past few weeks on this pod. Keeps producing 400 plus yards against the 49ers last week. Now he goes to play the Jags in Arizona. Love that for him. And looks like Harrison should be back, right? That's usually a 1 week thing with the appendix.
Yeah, I think he's expected, tentatively expected to return.
Yeah, and I mean, either way, you got Trey McBride, you got Greg Dortch, you got Michael Wilson, who's like somehow just Garrett Wilson now. So, I mean, Brissett's making everybody look better in the pass game. Greg Dortch phased out before this. He's catching touchdowns. He's running for touchdowns. Like, he's getting 70 yards, receiving. Michael Wilson had his best game as a pro. He used to be just like a cardio king type of guy. So it's not just even McBride with the touchdowns. Even Marvin Harrison looked better with Brissett. Like, the old Marvin Harrison wouldn't have caught that touchdown 2 weeks ago at the end of the game, right? Like, it would have just been over. Like, it would have just been DeMarcado or somebody, whoever, like somebody random. So, I mean, maybe Zay Weaver is next too, but either way, love Brissett this week. I think he's a borderline top 12 option at this point. So if you're streaming him, or if you picked him up for that game last week, I think you hold on to him through this week as well. Maybe rest of the season, like you alluded to on the waiver pod. Quarterbacks that you are low on, who you got for week 12?
I'm low on Joe Flacco to open the week. He's been a fringe QB1 with the Bengals, obviously, but could take a hit this week with Jamar Chase suspended 1 game, although he's appealing. So there's a chance that he does play this week, right? Like, I'm opening the door for that. But as of now, I'm projecting Chase out. So Flacco takes a bit of a hit. In the meantime, this is also just a tougher matchup against the Patriots. Could be easier for them to slow down T. Higgins specifically if Chase is out. They could throw Christian Gonzalez on him, shadow him. So that's just going to make it tougher for Flacco in general. Maybe they go a little bit more run heavy. They're an extreme pass heavy team. So they lean on Chase Brown a bit more on the ground because Chase is out. That's going to hurt Flacco's upside. So, Flacco's certainly capable of still going off for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns here, no matter what. But he might QB 18 at least to open the week, assuming, Chase does serve his suspension this week.
Yeah, there's always a chance. I mean, probably holds up though, after seeing everything. But we'll update projections accordingly. But I do agree. I think that he's one of the few receivers that could ding a couple of tenths of a yard per attempt off their quarterback's projection. Yep. So definitely something to watch. I'm low on Caleb Williams going up against the Steelers. The Bears run game, I think they found something there. Ben Johnson's always been good, and Caleb Williams just hasn't been consistent enough for me, to be like this top 12 kind of week in, week out quarterback. I think when he's going up against a good matchup, yes, but the Steelers, I like what they're doing on defense. They've started to play a little less aggressively, drop back more guys into coverage, blitz a little bit less. So that you don't want to do that. You don't want Williams facing a defense that's just kind of a little more in control and laid back, because Caleb Williams is not that at all. So he needs the chaos to thrive. I don't like him at all in this matchup outdoors in what could be a really lower scoring game if we get Rudolph at quarterback instead of Rodgers. But even if we don't, I mean, Rodgers, he's going to be throwing what's his ADOT going to be if he plays with one wrist, like 4.6 or something.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those, like,
dump
the possessions can be limited.
Yeah, dump offs to Jonnu and Darnell, right? And just bulldoze people over. Let them do all the work.
Yeah. Oh, another one of those tight ends who gets the short yardage. What's the name? Hayward in Pittsburgh. So yeah, we were talking about that on
yeah, all 4 tight end touchdown parlay. Let's do it.
Ooh, yeah. All right. Quarterback prop. Let's go Baker Mayfield versus Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is a 0.5-point favorite.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have Daniel Jones projected like 2 more points, which I think sounds about right. But Baker, again, always just buries me. When I need Baker to do good, he sucks too. I can't win with Baker. Give me Daniel Jones.
Ooh, yeah.
So that just solidifies Baker is finishing at least, ahead of Daniel Jones, probably top 10, but he always does the opposite of what I want. Always.
Yeah, I have Daniel Jones. This is actually my real line because I have him Daniel Jones 0.4 points ahead. So I gave you the true projected line. I think you're on the right. I think you're like, I mean, you could be. Oh, I guess you're a 1/10 of a point on the wrong side technically, but so I got to be happy about that. But
yeah, because 0.4. But
yeah.
But, I mean, Baker could go back to not running the ball at all this week. You never know.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's a tough projection. I do think DJ could struggle, against that defense on the road. But it's Baker has just as many question marks. So it's tough. You got to kind of not go into recency bias, but it's hard with these two. Just start Brissett. That's my thing. I actually have Brissett above both of them. I have Brissett QB 8 and Lawrence QB 9. So yeah, just start both of those guys.
Oh yeah.
All right, running back top
5. Bijan, CMC, JT, Rico, and unfortunately I have Gibbs as my running back 5 to open the week. Probably too low.
Fair. No, I mean, it's, there's always that question because they do feature 2 guys, but I have Gibbs number 2 right behind CMC right now, Bijan, Taylor, and James Cook. Another guy, like, just kind of like Gibbs, just those explosives kind of tilt it one way or another, whether he's going to get one of those in the game or not, or multiple. So it's tough projection, but I feel good about Gibbs against the Giants running on the ground. So yeah, I'm going to leave him up there.
Where do you have Rico? Is he like 6, 7?
He's usually 6, 7, and let's see, he is 7. Yeah, number 7.
Oh, okay.
So he's right there. Who are you high on?
I'm high on Travion Henderson. He's my RB10. I think he's a no-brainer at this point, but I feel like this is the only space like I could carve out for us to talk about him. So I'm just opening up the discussion on him this week. I feel like he's a guy we could be getting a ton of questions about later in the week if Ramondre does return. Because if Ramondre's out, he's going to be a top 5 back for me probably just based on, last week's usage. We saw, season high and, rush attempt share, but also season high 81% routes run rate. So he added on the 5 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. And that's where some of my concern would be if Ramondre returns is, obviously Vrabel's probably just not going to use Travion as, a workhorse back the rest of the season. I'm worried, Ramondre could make his routes run rate dip below 50% again and just limit him to early down work. I don't really know what's going to happen, but Travion, my comp for him heading into the season was, prime Aaron Jones, where he probably doesn't need to see a ton of work to offer RB1 value. So I think certainly even in what could be more of a timeshare with Ramondre, I still think he's a RB1 at this point. He's just been too good, too explosive these past few weeks to move him outside of that. But like kind of where do you see, Ramondre fitting in and how do you project Travion if Ramondre does return this week? Granted, this is, just an amazing matchup against the Bengals. So I think either way, Travion's going to be a top 12 back, but how do you see this kind of shaking out if and when Ramondre does return?
So I give it, I'm giving it about 60-40 Henderson right now with Ramondre back. So, and that projection against the Bengals makes Travion my RB6. So that's why Rico's RB7.
It's almost like this is like a week 13 and beyond discussion. This week you're playing him no matter what. I can't even imagine what your rank would be if Ramondre's out, right? Are we talking top 2 at this point?
Let's see.
But yeah, I think it goes without saying.
I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I could do that too.
I can give it to you right now.
It's going to be scary.
RB3. Behind only Gibbs and
yeah, I think it goes without saying. God. If you have him, you're ecstatic. You're playing this week, but down the road, I think Ramondre is going to eat into his work more than people will like. So he might settle in as like an RB2. But I think at this point, if you drafted Travion thinking he'd be, high end RB2, I think we have reached that point. So I'm high on him this week, no matter what happens with Ramondre and his injury. And then next up, I have Travis Etienne. He's my RB17 to open up the week, and I'm projecting Bashal Tutin to be fine and play through what it looks like he suffered an ankle injury. We don't know how severe it is, if he's going to suit up this weekend. Tutin had a breakout game himself. I know you're high on him. He's looked great out there, but Etienne's been playing well enough that it's hard to say that he could leapfrog Etienne outright. I just think overall this Jags running attack has been excellent, especially ever since the Week 8 bye. If you look at their pass rate over expected, they've been very run heavy since the bye. So it's been kind of a noticeable shift where Cohen's is leaning on this rushing attack a lot more. So I think both backs can offer fancy value going forward, even if both are healthy. But again, I have Etienne RB17 this week with Tutin suiting up, and there's a chance Tutin's out, so Etienne could be inside my top 10 by the end of the week. So I'm just high on both of these backs, but especially Etienne this week since he's the healthier back heading into week 12.
Yeah, I know we were talking about our guy Chris Harris. I was on his podcast yesterday, and I was saying that same thing. I was like, the Jags' run game is really, I think, what's going to kind of be it for them down the stretch, because I don't know if you saw that Charger Jags game, but I mean, I've never seen two quarterbacks that just look like they look exactly like quarterbacks, like Lawrence and Herbert, but they look like they've never thrown a football before. It's just like, I mean, I can't imagine what Liam Cohen goes through in practice with Trevor Lawrence every week. That somehow, the running game after all this is but they're looking like they're going to lead on.
Well,
it's
Herbert,
disgusting.
Last week Herbert looked like shit, but typically you would agree that he does know how to throw the football, right? That.
Yes. But he looks sort of wonky though sometimes. But that's usually because he's taking too many hits. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Who the fuck was this Patrick Herbert guy that spawned into our lives? He was he's their tight end on the practice squad. Didn't get called up, but everybody was making a big deal. My theory is Justin just had his brother play for him this weekend while he was out with Madison Beer or whatever. But I don't know what the hell I was watching. Trust me, I watched that entire game, every play. And just dumbfounded with how bad Herbert looks. Trevor Lawrence tends to look like that every week. But yeah, that was one of the worst games I've ever seen Herbert play. That was really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a Jacksonville thing. But as far as, the Jags, I mean, Lawrence just throws casual, inaccurate passes a lot. So Cohen must see that, and that has to be why they're waiting on the run game. So I agree. I have Tutin in. Would have kind of like his normal workload just because he's questionable, but with that, I have Etienne as the RB15. So either way, I think this is a good spot. Yeah, because it's going to be, I think, that for Trevor Lawrence, like a low volume if they can help it kind of passing attack. Yeah,
they're kind of like a dollar store Gibbs and Monty, where they're both going to offer value going forward. And if either one misses time, the other's going to just see a ton of work, right? I don't think LaQuint Allen or Cody Schrader would mix in as much. So both these guys just have massive upside, and they're already startable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm high on David Montgomery this week. He's kind of the guy that I think is most important to talk about because he's going to have some bad weeks. I think I talked about this at the beginning of the year. Like, it's not going to be as consistent with him just in this offense with Gibbs as good as he is. Next week, or this week, I should say, Gibbs, great matchup. Monty, same thing. This is against the Giants. So they're 10.5-point favorites right now. Last week, they were 2.5-point underdogs. So that's not a usual game script for the Lions. And it was worse than that because you got outdoor Goff, like all just couldn't keep drives going. I mean, they were about to set the record at one point for turnovers on downs. I feel like they had like 5 in a row. Do you remember that? Like in the middle of the game, it was like 5 straight possessions. They turned it over on downs. That's not
gonna they didn't set the record. I wouldn't be shocked if they set the record. There was a team with more than that.
I mean, I didn't hear anything, so I'm just assuming I could have just not heard it, and it was posted somewhere. But either way, I mean that when they don't finish a possession on downs and it finishes, in the opposing red zone, that's good news for Montgomery. Because Gibbs is going to finish some on his own sometimes, just explosively, and so can JMO. But Montgomery, Amon-Ra, those guys, they need to be a little bit closer. So a game like the Giants, who just are putrid in run defense, I think this sets up well for Montgomery because he could also get carries late if they're salting away a lead. So like him the most, guys like Kenneth Gainwell and Emmanuel Wilson still kind of depend on the status of their starters, but would be high in them as well if they if their starters were to miss. Who are you low on?
Yeah, you tease it there. Rachaad White against the Rams. He's my RB43, but it's almost impossible to project the Bucs backfield this early in the week because Bucky Irving might return this week. He got in some practice last week. They're going to try to ramp it up this week. Who knows if he's going to return or not, but that would obviously be just a massive blow to Rachaad White's value. But even if Bucky's out, Sean Tucker, you mentioned it earlier on the waivers pod, but Sean Tucker's been playing well enough. I think he's going to be the lead back, at least on early downs for them going forward until Bucky's back. Even then, he might keep that job. Who knows? But White should still handle the passing down work if Bucky's out. And this is, against the Rams, so this could be a trailing game script where he does see an uptick in work. But, his stock is certainly trending down with Bucky's, pending return and Sean Tucker playing well. White was offering RB1 value at times when Bucky was first out. So just seeing him all the way down to RB43, just if you've been banking on him, you got to start making plans that, he's going to be more of a bench stash at this point. If Bucky remains out, you might be able to use him. But yeah, he's trending down a ton in my projections, all the way down to RB43 to open the week.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's the writing's on the wall now. I mean, this game, I guess there could be game script favoring him either way, but Tucker scored a receiving touchdown last game, so maybe not. I'm low on Breece Hall against Baltimore, and this is just one where I think, like, in initial projections, he's probably going to come out a little higher, but Baltimore has fixed its run defense, I think, compared to early in the year when they were just terrible, moving some guys around, into the box and, using their rookie safety a bit more. So I'm just concerned with the game script here. The Jets are just so unpredictable that you never know exactly what we're getting out of Breece Hall in the passing game now. Like it hasn't been as consistent as in previous years with Rodgers just dumping it off. You have Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor who aren't going to check down as much. So you're depending on the running game, and I don't think it's going to be as strong of a matchup against Baltimore. So, Breece Hall is kind of that more of a low end RB2 now, where I think initially I probably would have made him like a RB1, low end RB1 in a matchup like this. But Baltimore's defense, I think, trending up, and the Jets just still a mess. I mean, who knows who's going to be their receiving core? Who knows? At some point, Davis might mix in more as well. Their season just seems in the gutter. So going up against Baltimore, I don't love it for Breece here. All right, RB prop, who we got?
Yeah, so this Browns-Raiders game is a battle of rookie running backs. So I'm going to go Quinshon Judkins versus Ashton Jeanty rushing yards. And I'm going to make Judkins a pretty big favorite here. I'm going to go with minus 17.5 rushing yards for Judkins. Who are you taking?
Oh, man. I mean, what did Jeanty have, 7? On Monday night against the Cowboys?
Judkins looks great, but yeah, he ran 17 times for 59 yards last week. Obviously, he's playing on a bad team too, but
yeah, that's tough. I'm going to go Jeanty here just because I do have it pretty close. I think like Jenkins has a little bit more of a question mark of the game script too, just because they're on the road. I mean, the Raiders haven't been favored very often, so yeah. I'm gonna go Genty, but it's tough because the Browns defense, for what it's worth though, has not been as good on the road, so that could work in Genty's favor. Like at home,
that's been a theme for them for a few seasons, right? So yeah, it makes sense.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah. That's so disgusting, but
if I included receiving yards, Genty obviously gets a boost there. It just seems like they've kind of considered dump offs to him to be, a more effective way to get him the ball in space and kind of an extension of the run game. But yeah, that's tough matchup though. Still, even if the Browns have been kind of shaky on the road.
Oh yeah, it's every week's a tough matchup because they got like 3 of their offensive linemen on injured reserve now.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to wide receivers in a moment, but it is that time of year. We have the best deal on Action Pro as part of our Black Friday presale. It's live right now. Sign up for $40 off an annual subscription, which is our biggest sale of the year. Action Pro users get real-time pick alerts as soon as experts like Koerner, Nick Giffen, Stuckey, myself track picks in the app. Without Action Pro, you need to wait 30 minutes to get alerts and risk not getting the best of the line. You also get real-time money percentages to see whether smart money is flowing and access to our NFL player prop projections powered by Koerner. The best deal of the year runs through Sunday. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro to sign up now for $40 off an annual subscription. All right, wide receiver top 5 for week 12. Koerner, who you like?
I got Amon-Ra, JSN, Puka Nacua, who's not even a full-time receiver anymore, which is crazy. Rashee Rice and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, it's Puka's 75% routes run rate lately or something. He's still balling out though.
Yeah, I think that's the plan, right? With all the heavy tight end personnel, have Devontae out there, give Puka a breather, and then when Puka's out there, you target him. So it's been working for them.
Yep, I'm sticking with those top 2: JSN, Puka, Amon-Ra, Rashee Rice, and CeeDee Lamb. If Chase was to play, he would be back in there, but got to project him out for now. So yeah, that leaves Puka as the number 2, and I don't feel bad about it honestly because they're just too efficient right now. I'm not too worried about the routes. It's like Stephon Diggs with the Bills one year. I think it was a couple years ago. Tyreek Hill too. It's like sometimes they would have like 75-80% route run rates, but still get targeted so much that it doesn't matter. I think Puka's kind of in that same boat as them. They're just trying to preserve him because they got playoff, like they're trying to get that deep into the playoffs this year. So it makes sense. All right, who are you high on at wide receiver?
Finally get to talk about this guy on this pod, but Luther Burden III against the Steelers. He's very talented rookie who they took in the second round. I think he was a first round talent, but he's been buried on the depth chart to start his career, really their number 4 receiver. And I don't think it's that dissimilar to JSN, CeeDee Lamb, when they, started out as the number 3 target in their offense. I don't think he's quite that caliber of a prospect, but I think he's going to be legit when he does get playing time and, higher up on the target pecking order. But last week we finally saw him leapfrog Olamide Zaccheaus. Burden had a 61% routes run rate. Zaccheaus fell all the way down to 19%. So that was the first step to Burden's breakout. And I think he could push wide receiver 3 value in this role specifically. But now he's, in a Dunze or DJ Moore specifically, injury away, maybe even Loveland, from being like a potential wide receiver 2, in my opinion. So I think he should be rostered by most teams heading into these, final weeks of the fantasy regular season, just given his upside. But I think now he's kind of getting enough time where he could be, wide receiver 3 flex in the right spot. So, I have him as my wide receiver 37 this week, which is probably my highest rank for him all season. So I think the Luther Burden, the 3rd train, is about to leave the station. And next up is a guy I don't think I've ever mentioned on this pod, but Mac Hollins. I'm high on Mac Hollins. Just because, the Patriots wide receiver room has been just too volatile behind Stephon Diggs to trust anybody. But, Hollins has really stepped up the past couple of games. This is back-to-back games now where he's run a 80% or higher route run rate. And, part of that is due to Kayshon Boutte being out, but it's been really Kyle Williams, the rookie, kind of filling in for him. So even if Boutte returns, I think Hollins has kind of carved out this role for himself where I think he's still going to be out there a ton. And, he's earned the trust of Drake May. He's seeing a ton of targets now. And I just think he kind of landed in the best situation where he got to land with the new team, with Drake May having a year to legit breakout in kind of a murky wide receiver room. And Hollins has been kind of sneaky good his entire career, where anytime he has a chance to step up, he usually does. So I just think right now we can kind of trust Mac Hollins as like a low end wide receiver 3 with some upside, especially against the Bengals. So I'm high on Mac Hollins this week. I think we can kind of trust him enough to use him in certain spots.
Yeah, I think the question everybody wants to know is Booty still up in the air?
Booties are always up in the air, but yeah, this week, to open the week, yeah, booties are up in the air.
Yeah, he's expected to practice Wednesday, but who knows with, as well as, like you said, the other guys are playing. Like Drake May's just making everybody look good out there. Yeah. So I don't think they need to rush him back. They've been fairly healthy, this whole year, so they probably want to stay like that. So we'll see. But I would expect Williams to go down and Efton Chisholm to just be relegated to, kick returns if he suits up at all.
Yeah.
I'm high on Devontae Smith this week. I think, it's kind of been a flip-flop. We've seen it with the Eagles with, Brown and Smith. It just depends on the matchup. You have a man coverage heavy matchup like the Detroit Lions. You're going to see more A.J. Brown. You have a zone heavy matchup like the Packers the week before. You're going to see more Smith. I think it kind of flips back to Smith a little more this week. Dallas has been one of the zone heavier teams. They've tried to mix it up a little more as the year has progressed, but still, I'm not kind of looking at it as, okay, Brown got, he did get a ton of targets, didn't get in the end zone, unfortunately, but it's not like I think Brown is going to continue to be just like a squeaky wheel, non-dependent on the matchup. Like he'll be involved, but as he should be. But I think Smith is going to be, do better than he did against the Detroit Lions, where he was, kind of shaky. So like Smith this week against Dallas, especially, with the way the coverages kind of line up for the receivers. Who are you low on at wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm low on Jordan Addison against the Packers. Last week I cashed in. I took his under 3.5 receptions last week. That was an easy win. Just mainly because he's just been seeing a ton of targets downfield. And JJ McCarthy's been, let's face it, awful in his first real season. So just not an ideal role for Addison to have to see, consistent, production. But now they're going to be on the road in what could be freezing temps against a defense that's really good at, limiting explosive plays. So I think this is a really tough spot for Addison. I have him wide receiver 38 to open the week. I personally think that's too high. So I think by the end of the week, he's probably going to be outside my top 40. But it's been just kind of a disappointing season for McCarthy and, the passing attack, unfortunately. So, yeah, Addison's going to be probably, a sit for me this week and going forward.
Yeah, I mean, this Green Bay defense is no joke. They do play a lot of zones, so that should limit the explosives. So unless they kind of switch up their game plan, it would be rough for everybody involved, really. Yeah, I have Jefferson as low as he's been in a while. He's like my wide receiver 18, which is surprising. So yeah,
not crazy, but yeah, I was like, he's hurting too. This is the first time I've seen him projected under 5 receptions for me. It's just like McCarthy's just souring the whole entire fantasy landscape with this team.
I am low on DJ Moore. You kind of alluded to it with the Burden call. I like it too. I have them essentially at the same ranking right now, which is not good for DJ Moore because he should be higher than the team's number 3 receiver. But his routes run rate also dropped a little bit just over the last month or so. And now with Burden kind of being promoted, it's like even if DJ Moore is playing his normal routes run rate, around 80%, 85%, Burden commands more targets. So he's going to be on the field more with, together with Moore, as opposed to earlier in the year where Burden was more of Moore's direct backup. So that could just lower the target share. And then you also mentioned Loveland is back, with Kmet. So that also kind of lowers things a little for everybody involved. So DJ Moore, without the kind of benefit of a run game too, because he was also getting those carries, and now you have Monogonai and Swift, so you're not as likely, I think, to give him carries. So everything is kind of trending down for DJ Moore just a tiny bit. But overall, that lowers the entire projection to where he's like a low-end wide receiver 3, and just like Burden at this point. So in no rush to start him, because we don't really know where the role is going to end up. And I mentioned this Pittsburgh defense trending up, not as liable, I think, to just be exploited, down the field or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's just tough for DJ Moore, tough for his managers to kind of get a read on, whether he'll be consistent. But I think most weeks he probably won't be. So I'm out on him.
Yeah, like he hasn't had a target rate over 20% all season, which is insane. And his ADOT has been over 20 yards the past 2 weeks. I think he's like a reception market fade this week, but he's essentially like a rich man's Jalen Hyatt right now. Is kind of what his underlying usage looks like, right? Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's
more rush
weird.
attempts, but yeah, oh gosh, yeah, it's been a nightmare season for DJ Moore, and now the Bears seem to be trending towards like more heavy personnel, running game, Komet, Loveland focused. Like I think their top receiver, Adunze, last week, his routes run rate was only like in the mid 80s, which that just signals like it's getting heavier personnel time. So this could be just a year-long thing. Like I don't know if Moore ever regains any type of value or has one of those like breakout games going forward.
Yep.
We shall see. But yeah. All right, wide receiver prop. A lot of guys to choose from. Just a lot of upheaval in the some of these wide receiver rooms last couple of weeks. Let's see. Let's go with Ricky Pearsall. Receiving yards against Carolina on Monday night, because you would have to wait to start him. So I think he's going to be another one of those guys, probably a question mark. Now, he did play a ton over Kendrick Bourne, so that's good. But I'm going to set his receiving yardage line at 43.5.
Ooh, on my head, that sounds a bit right. I have 46 as his average. I'm going to go under here, but just a couple yards. It seems like Juwan Jennings is kind of the alpha wide receiver right now. I think that'll just continue this week. And Ayuk's already been ruled out this week, right? Yeah, he's still weeks away. Yeah, he's still weeks away.
Is he playing this year?
That's a good bet. Like, will he play this year? Would be like minus 110 each way at this point, right? I mean, we're getting deep in the season, and he's still weeks away. So yeah, there's a chance he doesn't return this. Yeah, maybe he returns in the playoffs or something. But yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good line. I'm just gonna lean under here.
Yeah, Pearsall still has, like, he did this last year too, where it's like most guys are healthy. He would have these stretches where he just completely, especially with Purdy, he just completely disappears.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard, but you would think they would want to get him going, just because he was so unproductive last week. But who knows? I mean, he's another just tough projection. I think the thing with Ayuk, he's probably not playing. He's got to get through one of those Thursday practices where everyone gets hurt. He probably would just come back and get hurt in practice or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And with Pearsall, typically, he's not seeing a big target rate this year, but he had a higher ADOT earlier in the season. And last week it was just 10.5 yards downfield. So even if he does, get more targets, they're not downfield. So yeah, he just seems like a kind of a lower floor, lower ceiling option right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even use his ADOT because he had it's just a small sample. Like, he hasn't got many targets this year. Yeah, but yeah, I still have him as a borderline wide receiver 3. It's just, I think it's a very volatile projection.
Yeah, especially with Kittle just popping off lately. He's more of the third target. Yeah, makes sense. Or fourth target with McCaffrey. Yeah.
Yeah. Tight end, top 5.
Okay, I'm sorting it. This is the first time I'm looking at it. Oh, I just mentioned George Kittle, number 1. Is that a type? That's not a typo. I'm sticking with it. That's my raw dog projection. Trey McBride, number 2. I would imagine he does end as my tight end 1 this week. And Brock Bowers, tight end 3. So a stacked top 3, and then I got Kelsey and Tyler Warren to close it out.
Yep. McBride, Kittle, Bowers, Warren, Kelsey, top 5. I think that's pretty standard this week. Kelsey's looking good out there.
Yeah.
I was worried about him, but he's come on strong. I think tough matchup last week too, and he did really well.
Yeah.
Who you high on?
Well, I mentioned this guy on the waiver pod. I got to talk about it again. It's AJ Barner. against the Titans this week. Coming off that really big 10 catch, 7-yard game. We talked about that. Like that, he's probably not going to be able to replicate that. That was just kind of an extreme pass heavy game script with Darnold throwing a ton of interceptions, and they're facing the Rams. So probably not going to see that level of, receiving usage the rest of the way. But it was encouraging to see his routes run rate top out at 80%, which is a season high last week. And I kind of mentioned that with, Rashid Shaheed there, they have Kupp, Torrey Horton might return this week. They're really trying to get, 3 receivers on the field as much as they can, or at least more so, with everyone healthy. So that's really coming at the expense of Elijah Arroyo, who I'm very high on as, a rookie. And, Barner's look good. So I don't think, Arroyo's really a threat for him at all. But specifically with Arroyo, he's running their tush push play, where every week, he's getting 1 or 2 design carries. A couple weeks ago, they used him at the goal line, so it's not without question that we could see him score a couple more rushing touchdowns the rest of the way, which is why I'm saying he's like Taysom Hill with a higher floor right now. So I think he's a guy that we have to take notice of, and he's pushing, tight end 1 value already, but I just think he has a ton of upside being in on this tush push play to where I think he has serious upside.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps to kind of project those out because, like, those tight ends that get rushing attempts, usually they are those short yardage carries. Now, Andrews I was projecting him for rush attempts, and he actually got like a 30 yards, 35.
Yeah,
so shout out to the line who had him. Yeah.
What happened? They got creative. Instead of just going up the middle, he just rolled out, and nobody was around, so he just scored 20, 30 yards out. So they're adding wrinkles to these tush push plays. But yeah, Andrews is the Ravens version because, like you always point out every year, Lamar Jackson just doesn't rush for touchdowns.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. I mean, it makes sense. Like, it's like you don't want him reaching the ball out, taking hits at the goal line. Like, you have other guys to do that. So, I think Barner is kind of in that. Like, Darnold hasn't run as much either as he used to early in his career. So that's kind of helped in the receiving game for Barner. And then, he gets those short yardage, those runs. So, like him, I'm high on. I think it was the guy you were low on last week or in the past, but Hunter Henry, I think this is a good week for him against the Bengals. They've just been putrid against tight ends. Their front seven's just decimated. I mean, it's a bad defense all the way around. But in a game like this, I think the Patriots could be leading for just a long time. That would be a little more 1-2 personnel. Now, Hooper's been out, or he was out last week. So if he doesn't play, Henry pretty much gets all the tight end snaps. You have the Westover, kind of the H-back role. But as far as the receiving game goes, I think Henry in a good spot. Got 6 targets, 4 catches last week. Nothing crazy. And he hasn't really been a top tight end this year just because of the receivers. But I think in this match, like Cincinnati is one of those few teams, Carolina, Pittsburgh, they tend to give up a ton to tight ends over receivers. So give me some Hunter Henry this week. He opens this week as my tight end 8, which is a lot higher than he's been in month and a half probably. So
last week I was low on him until Austin Hooper was ruled out, and then I was like, who the hell are they going to give the snaps to? So I gave them all to Henry, and sure enough, they didn't use Westover at all. I think Henry was like the only tight end, and they just elevated CJ Dipper. Who the hell is this guy? So that's not. I'm sure there's somebody out there that is Appalachian State legend CJ Dipper, you asshole. But I don't know who that guy is. But it just probably means that Hooper's probably sitting out this week again. We'll see.
It's another That's
he's Alabama. I should know who that is.
It's like him. It's like you got these guys with the RE last names that get like elevated, and then they're just gonna like last week it was the Giants guy, Dalen Camper was elevated over like there was no Ray, right? Like, it's just like
no Ray. Who was that guy? It was it doesn't matter, but I noticed that too. Like, who the hell is this guy? It's rare that I see a guy that I had just no clue. As being a preseason degenerate, I typically know who these guys are, but didn't know who that guy was.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was looking at the rosters. I was like, Ray's not here. And I was like, oh yeah, because he's still a freaking elevation. Like that's like some of these guys aren't like Gabe Davis. I believe would still have to get elevated this week too. So watch out for that. a few guys like that. But tight ends, we are low on. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm low on Harold Fannin Jr. against the Raiders, and I hate to do this because I'm still very high on Fannin as a talent, but I just think his stock did take a hit with the Browns deciding to keep David Njoku and not trading him before the deadline. So, Fann's going to be kind of in a timeshare with Njoku the rest of the way as long as he's healthy. But next year, when they move on from Njoku, possibly, Fann's going to have this tight end room all to himself. But, just within this offense, we've seen Jerry Jeudy's usage get an uptick. And he had mentioned that's kind of due to Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, now taking over play calling duties since the bye week. So that's a trend I noticed is Judy's getting more involved. Cedric Tillman's back commanding targets. So it's just a little bit tougher for Fan Jr. To get production. I mean, he's still seeing a really good target rate and playing time, but just with all these other mouths to feed in an offense, which Shedeur Sanders might be the starting quarterback this week. I saw his prop opened up at 160 passing yards, which is right around where I have him. So this is a game where I think they're just going to continue to lean on the run, lean on their defense, and that's just going to kind of limit Fan Jr.'s upside. So, he's tight end 19 for me. Again, he probably needed Njoku to get traded away or miss time to be kind of a consistent tight end one. So he's just a guy that I'm just a little bit lower on since the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think this is another one of those situations where the inactives could come into play or at least give us a hint as to their plans, because I noticed that they called up Caden Davis, they signed him to the roster or something. So he's a wide receiver, but he's not going to play. He's going to play special teams. And then they had Whitehart and Bates active. So they had 4 tight ends active. If that's their plan going forward, that would mean they would have like less receiver routes because Davis wouldn't really be expected to run routes. So that could actually be good for the tight ends, because it means like a guy like Fannin, like on block, he wouldn't have to block because they'd have Whitehart and Bates, and like there'd be no special teams like for like one of the like 3 or 4 tight ends like Whitehart and Bates. They probably both play on special teams, but they would like it wouldn't be as much of a role that they would have to be worried about with Fannin. So I think Fannin could be fine, but I agree. I mean, he's been trending down with Njoku, and Sanders is terrible. So it might not matter.
Right,
so I agree.
There's not much passing yards to go around is my point. But I love him as a talent still. I think next year he's probably going to be a top 10 option, depending who the hell they have at quarterback. But I'm still high on him long term.
Yeah, definitely. He looks good out there, but Shedeur. I mean, net 160 gross, right? But net, I mean, he could be like under 100 if he continues to take those sacks. All right, I am low on Dalton Schultz, and this is just kind of matchup based. Buffalo's been number 12 against tight ends. They've been pretty good at limiting tight ends, and then you have all those receivers playing now, like 5 receivers. Higgins, Noel are kind of, well, especially Higgins trending up, and then you have Stover returned. So early in the year, the plan was for Stover to get a little more involved. Schultz, he's just not a good blocker. So he's been banged up, but now that Stover's back, I wonder if Stover kind of eats into some of the early down snaps. I'm kind of a little weary of that compared to a guy like Harrison Bryant. So just lowering Schultz a little bit. I don't think he's trustable as a top 12 option the way he's been over the past month or so going forward. So low on Schultz for me. Tight end prop. That's you. What you got?
I'm gonna go with 2 kind of mid-range tight end 1 types. I have them projected very close, so just want you to kind of break the tie here. But it's Jake Ferguson versus Kyle Pitts, half PPR. I'll make Ferguson like it's a pick'em. I mean, we're talking about the scoring system that's like down to the decimal anyway, so it's a pick'em. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I have him closer than I want, but Pitts is just such a low floor. I'm going Ferguson. I've always been higher on Ferguson. The projections I have him pretty even. So I'm going Ferguson. I just trust the floor a lot more. You're not gonna get me to take Kyle Pitts or anything.
I don't know who I want you to take. I just Ferguson with Lamb back. His target share has taken a hit. He had those really big games with Lamb out, and now Pickens is out of this world. good. So yeah, he's got some target competition. But yeah, Kyle Pitts with London out, but Kirk Cousins is under center, makes it kind of a murky projection. So I have him, essentially tied to open the week.
Yeah, I'm just going with the better player. That's what I'm going to do.
Fair enough.
I hope it works out. It has. I mean, with Kyle Pitts, I mean, just man, frustrating. All right, that is going to do it. NFL Week 12 player projections here on the Fantasy Flex. We got our waiver episode out already. We'll be back with DFS tomorrow. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Labs for all of our pro projections, and you can use code FLEX20 for 20 off. Touchdown show on Friday over on the Action Network pod as well. Sean is on X at _oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. Don't forget to follow Playbook as well. Until next time, let's get this money.